Let's jam.
Three voices rise from different lands, guided by the moon with open hands. In the circle we unite as one, sharing wisdom under the sun. Divine feminine voices, we are three, three hearts, one spirit in harmony. On this journey, our truths we share. In the light of love, we're always there.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Shirley, you okay?
Yes.
She needs a cup of coffee.
No, I'm over here multitasking. I stopped.
Yeah.
Yay, happy Friday.
Yes.
Happy Friday.
I'm
Friday,
feeling
first of
great.
the month in like March. What does that mean to you? Like things
Spring?
are coming alive.
Yeah, spring.
But it also means things are going too fast. Too fast. Right? Cheryl, put your phone down.
It's I gotta deal with that for a second because they'll be offline. But you guys keep
You're only
talking.
going to be here for a little bit.
I'm still here. I'm here.
All right. So welcome to Divine Feminine Souls. And today is a scattered day. I'm feeling it. I put water in my coffee machine twice this morning. I don't even know how. Ended up with water everywhere.
Not a very good cup of coffee, I would imagine.
Well, I had to clean up the mess before I could even make the cup of coffee. But yeah, it's just been that kind of morning already. And yeah, a little scattery. So I'm glad we're here and definitely ready to just let's chill and chat.
Is there something going on in the universe?
Well, don't we have the weird planet alignments? Didn't we have the 7 and now we've got the 5 and yeah, I think there is. I think there is. I don't know enough about the planets. I've been trying to
Yeah, I know you were looking it up last week, so that's why I was asking because I don't know.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the parade, the parade of planets.
Is that what they're calling it?
Well, the 7 planet alignment was the parade. I don't know if a 5 planet makes it to a parade or not. But yeah, we had a 7 and now we've got a 5. So yeah, I don't know if that was today or yesterday. Yeah, so that definitely.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I had the universe message or the solar system come through in a session. So yeah, now I'm like really curious of what that's saying and what that really means.
Yeah.
It's getting like the matrix of like connection of the stars in this session. So I don't know. Just go with it.
Just go with it.
And you all know my history. And I'm wondering, just because we brought this up, if it's because of the planetary alignments. I got swirls going on. So even when you just did that triangle, it hit me, which is weird. I've been fine for a long time, right? But there's something that happens in the vestibular when the atmosphere changes. So on a cloudy day, ooh. So I'm just that might be the answer. It might be that there's something going on up there in the orbits that is impacting our barometric pressure.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, if you think about the moon, right, and how it affects the tides, how it affects water, which we have a fair bit of that in us, so it affects us. Well, the other planets may not be as recognized, but absolutely they'd have some sort of pull that would make a shift. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, and you think about the interconnectedness, which is, I know like we're going to dive into spirituality and what that looks like, but even just thinking about the spirit connects and like what you're connecting, how you connect with the elements and how you connect with the animal kingdom and how you connect with one another as humans. And,
when you say the elements, explain what elements are a little bit, because many people may not even understand what that is. I just recently
Yeah, the elements air. So air, wind or air. Um, no,
Fire,
what?
Fire,
Fire.
water.
Sorry.
earth,
Earth. So
and water.
grounding. Yeah.
Yeah,
And water.
Uh, and water. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Like
See, we're all off a little today.
very off.
Yeah,
Very, very off.
yeah.
And I actually always, so whenever I see, I light my candles, I invite in the elements air, water, fire, Mother Earth, ground, stone. So
Mhm.
it's a very natural thing for me to invite them in. But when you threw me off, Cheryl,
Sorry.
that's okay.
What is that? Yes. All right. Well, then let's just dive into what we said we're going to talk about, and like, what is spirit to you? What is spirit to you?
So, I go by the whole Gus thing. And
Mhm.
that came to me a couple years ago when I was working on a project with a team of people. And I was interviewing a guy for his program. And he was like, yeah, and Gus, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, Gus? What you talking about, Willis? His name was Andrew. And he was like, yeah, God, universe, spirit. And I was like, that is perfect for me, especially because of where I was at in my transitioning of trying to figure out how I felt spiritually, right? And it
Mhm.
just locked it down. And it reminded me of the fact that in the Bible, it says that Jesus said to us that he would send the Spirit to assist us in our daily lives. That's me paraphrasing. And
Mhm.
at that point, I had the aha of spirit could be associated with Holy Spirit, which then allowed me to embrace my Christianity foundation along with my new revelations around universe. And then I've always just kind of communicated with God. I could never be like, there was so much transition that took place then, like even ending my prayers in Jesus' name. I stopped at that point because for me, I have friends all across the world. I have worked with people all across the world. And it was complicated to understand how it would be that Jesus is the only way, right? So for me, again, it goes to the focus of Gus. And now I'm a little bit of spirit, divine. I don't know that it needs to have a title, but I have a relationship with the higher source.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's uh, you know, God is a very masculine energy for me, and so I've had church trauma, and so I really do struggle with the idea of God. Spirit really works for me. Universe, higher, my higher self, also, right? And so yeah, I have to say I do get activated. God or things like that. That's my own thing, right? Everybody has a different name, and there's so many different gods, right? After leaving sort of all my exploration of the churches, I then dove into paganism, which is nature based. Scares a lot of people, but it's really just about nature. Now I would just say I'm spiritual. But with that, so many different gods, right? So many different gods. And so, yeah, I just like to connect to spirit. And I think that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, do you remember when you said pay when I finally came to you and I was like, "Pay this up." I'm not
Sorcery is this.
sure about that one right there. Can we be? I don't know.
Yes.
Now, 4 or 5 years later, I'm like, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah.
But, oh my god, I was
But
shocked,
and
like,
can
"What
I
the
just say,
hell?"
I love that you brought that up because I love that you both brought that up because again, without asking questions or what I say leaning in and communicating and talking out like what is your perspective? What is your perspective on spirituality anyway? What does that even mean to you, not being right. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just asking, right? So I
Right.
can
Yes.
understand, so I can soften my heart and feel a little bit better about what your belief systems are, or even whether it feels a little better in my body, or just understand it a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a key thing for me, of just being curious, right?
Which is the way that we should live life, is as far as I'm concerned. Curious and fascinated,
Yeah.
because we're not the onlys,
No.
right? We're not the onlys. So what
No.
about you, Elizabeth? What's your
So, I explored it many years ago when I wasn't sure. I was raised by Lutheran parents, and my other grandparents had Moravian background, and then my mom and dad didn't really want to raise us within a church, but we dipped our toes on the holidays, right? So and then I was raised among a very predominantly Jewish community, or an Italian Catholic. So I was the outsider looking in for so many years, and not having an identity somewhat made me curious to look at all the other belief systems in my early 20s. And I can recall having conversations with Jehovah's, with people from the Church of Latter-day Saints, but not having a fear that they were going to convince me of anything. I was just stepping in, being curious. And what I came out of my research, let's call it, was that at the end of the day, all of these belief systems wanted to attain a higher level of love,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So what I took from it to lend to my life was, at the end of my day, how much did I love? How much did I love on myself? How much did I love on my friends? How much did I pour love out into the universe, to the elements, to the planet, to the animal kingdom, all of the humans, all of it? And that comes back to me of being oneness, right? Connected, the interconnection. So spirit is, what you want to get out of life, what you pour into life, you get out of life. And do we need our outside sources? But they're one with us. So whether you call it God, universe, spirit, whatever,
Jehovah.
whomever, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Angels, it's all one. And
Mhm.
if we treat ourselves as though, then we're kind to ourselves when we're kind to our higher selves. We're kind to the source. So, yeah,
And
it's
all we really need is love, right? Love
mhm.
is like the one thing that intertwines between, or interweaves into every single thing that we try to put a identity to.
Yep.
It's not necessary for us to have, in my opinion, it's not necessary for us to have a specific religion, because it is, in fact, and I'm going to go there, y'all, in fact, that religion is what has caused most of the wars in the world and the divisiveness that exists across centuries and well, not, we don't want to go down, but millennials, right?
Mhm.
Millenniums. And it's just because somebody wants to own something,
Right.
instead of walking in love and kindness and gentleness and just being good human beings.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we
I,
don't
I would
need
even say that, religion takes us more away from spirit
yeah,
because we're going
yeah.
through somebody else. I think it's a really good place for community,
Community, exactly.
right? Religion is good for community, but
Mhm.
to actually connect to spirit, I because you've removed yourself by putting a middleman in there, and 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 so I think it can do an injustice to your connection.
And
I
I
mean, you
think
can still
that's
find that.
I'm
Sorry,
so
Cheryl.
sorry. I'm so sorry, yeah. And I think that spirituality is an individual practice. I want to say sport, but it's a practice. I would almost go to sport because the more you practice it, the stronger you get. It's just like going to the gym. If you practice it, you get a much better relationship in all the things and all the ways that you live, I feel, out your life. And
Yeah.
there's so many beautiful aspects to it. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Sorry.
But I feel like what you just said, it's a communication, right?
Mm.
So especially, in my line of work, people ask me to teach them how to communicate with source. So if we're not communicating with source, God, universe, spirit, right?
Mhm.
Angels, and whatever it is that if
Right.
you're not communicating, you're not going to get a reciprocation. You're not going to hear it. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to know it. It would be, to me, no different than how we've cultivated this beautiful relationship with one another, right? So we show up every Friday to see each other, to talk, to get to know one another, to understand each other. And I think that's the key thing. It's really just understanding one another by giving a moment to listen, right? Not just
Mhm.
be the speaker. And I find that in a lot of relationships, I actually was just, in a meeting yesterday, and this woman happened to stop in randomly. I haven't seen this person, but she was talking all about herself. And
Mhm.
I was just like, where's the reciprocity? But are
Mhm.
you getting my point on, like, in spirit, when we connect with a higher self, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, it has to be a flow
Yeah.
of an ebb and a flow,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? It's not a
Yeah.
just one-way street.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the first time that you had a connection with spirit?
Mhm.
Like when
First
there
time?
was that, I mean, I don't know if I remember my very first time, but when there was just that moment you were like, "Ah," that big aha. Or just recently. We could just go with just recently because I know we have them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I don't know if I know the first time. The first time I trusted, maybe the first time I trusted, because we always have a connection. The first time I trusted, um, probably I was, mid-20s, and it's grown stronger. And now it's like to the point where I don't have to like tap in as much. Like before I'd have to like stop and pay attention. And now it's more, oh, that's a message, or, oh, I hear that sort of thing versus, oh, what does my higher power want for me? What does spirit think is the best course of action here? Now it's more of a flow.
Yeah, so let's do something real quick. Let's talk about some real clear signs that you've received. So the people out there that are wondering what it feels like to connect with whatever spirituality is for them, or people that are seekers that aren't quite clear, especially about how to connect, give a few examples. I'll start with one. For me, there are times when I get the angel numbers, right? Like I'm in a season of that again right now. So 1111, 1112, 911 show up for me everywhere right now.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, okay, yay. I'm glad, so glad that you're here with me, right? What about you all? What are some other examples?
Hmm.
Elizabeth, you've got some that have been.
Really
I'm
amazing.
getting, again, the more that you communicate, the more that it comes, right? And it's daily for me. So I could have a book full of stories. Um, which I love and I invite in. And I'll tell you, when I was young, my first time I remember having a conversation with God at the time, I was like, I don't want to go to school. I hate school. It stings. And I felt this nudge on my tushy. I felt like a little get up. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, you do hear me. You are here. And it wasn't harmful. It was just a, come on, girl, get up. And that was when I realized, like, oh, God hears me, or Gus, or angels, or something higher than me hears me. It's not just me laying here in this bed, right?
Mhm.
Um, so then fast forward over time, I of course turned it on and turned it off. And it wasn't until my 20s when I really tuned in, and I would tune in with friends, and it was kind of fun, and I thought it was kind of cool that I would know people, or I would know things about people. And then they thought I was weird and they were afraid of me, and I lost a few friends that way.
Explain
Um
that a little bit more, Elizabeth, because
well, because that's kind of weird if I kind of knew something about you that I'm just meeting you, and I just have this feeling that this or that happened to you, or you came from this kind of a family, or whatever the motion was that I knew, or the knowing. And then to tell you, you might be a little weirded out.
I would have been really freaked out back in my 20s. I would have been like, "What?"
Right. So I had to tone it down. I had to learn how to tone it down and turn it on when I needed to turn it on, and turn it off when I wanted to turn it off. Um, I was a little bit upset with myself that I didn't turn it on with a specific boyfriend. Like, I should have known better, and then I shamed myself. And ever since then, I mean, I learned so much. I actually learned more having not turned it on and not gone with my intuition. Um, and I moved across country, and I got what I needed to get out of that relationship, but more so what I needed to learn in that dark time of my life. Um, so, but then I turned it on when I knew I needed to, for those moments in life where it was essential. So I had a partner in life that I wasn't just relying on my ego self, my thoughts, or what I feel like was right. So I've always partnered with spirit.
So
And
give us an example of something that just happened to you recently where you were just like, "Oh, this is a real clear sign."
well, and I flow and ebb and flow with spirit and communication with, like, mediumship. And we've talked before, my parents have both passed away within the last year and a half. So I'll share this story because it happened last week, and I think it's fun, and it's no doubt, right? So I had finished my day of working and got my son off to school, to sports, and I'm in the kitchen, and I have my music playing, and I'm just like tuning in, cutting up my vegetables and chilling out. And all of a sudden I listened to the music after I had turned on Alexa, which she kind of knows who I am, my voice, and she knows that she plays a mix of Pink and John Mayer and whatnot. And when I'm listening to the music, I'm listening closer, and I'm thinking, this doesn't sound like Pink. Sounds a little more like doo-wop, like 1950s doo-wop. Like, that's very far off the spectrum of Pink or John Mayer. So I'm listening a little bit more, and I'm chopping up my veggies, and I'm just kind of getting into the thought of this music. I'm like, why is this music on? And I'm letting it go. And then I think to myself, and I say out loud, Dad, this reminds me of you. I said, where are you? And then with that, I started getting emotional. And I was like, oh no, I'm not getting emotional. I'm like, this is my dad. Because when I was growing up, my father had 1950s, 60s doo-wop parties, and they had so much fun. We used to dance and do skits and all this stuff with the doo-wop music. So I was like, just reminds me of dad. It's coincidental. And I'm starting to walk towards Alexa to look at, like, is this Pink that sounds like doo-wop? I don't even recognize the song. So with that, the next song comes on, and it's Johnny Be Good. And I had to stop, took a picture, and I laughed because my dad's name is John. And I knew, I said, Dad, you want to have a dance party? So I turned up the music. My dog Tino loves to dance with me. And we had a dance party right there in the kitchen. So I know that was my dad.
That's way sweet.
I love that.
But what's funny is I was telling my sister this story yesterday, and she's like, I don't get things like that. And what was ironic, and like, again, to me, I just think it's so normal. But to have my own sister say, I don't get those messages. I don't get things like that. And she's religious, and she goes to church every Sunday, and she speaks to God and whatnot. But apparently it's different, and that's okay. But I love that I get to have that communication with my dad.
I bet you she does get that, but she doesn't listen. Right?
That's my thing. Yeah.
And that's the thing, you have to learn to listen.
Yeah.
And it's very easy in our very busy life, and we're taught not to pay attention to our intuition, especially as women. Everybody knows, somebody always knows better than we do. So listening in to spirit or our intuition or, higher power, whatever it is, we're literally taught not to believe it. So we hear it. We may see it, hear it, get a message, a feeling, but we ignore it. And so it's learning to tap into that. And that's a practice, right? You have to learn to tap into that and start to trust yourself, start to trust the messages that are coming. And that doesn't mean that you are always going to get what you want, which is another thing I think a lot of people believe, is spirit always has your back, always has your best interest. But that doesn't mean that things are going to be easy. There's lessons we need to learn. There's a path we need to take. And if we're not taking it, something abrupt may happen to change the course. So it doesn't mean that if we're tapped in that nothing bad ever happens and we get everything we want. It just means that we're led to where we're supposed to go. And that includes some hardships and what we may perceive as negative things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything is in divine order. And I think that is a key thing for us to, and sometimes very difficult and challenging for us to just become aware of, but trusting, right? That everything's in divine order. And, just like, as I was saying to you before about getting these messages of looking at the incredible sky. And if you do some like stargazing at night, if you have an opportunity to look out at this blackness and see the stars, and they're all in alignment, right? The planets are all in alignment. Everything is in divine order. Everything is out there. It's supposed to be. And we are a part of that. And we're in that interconnectedness of this universe together, that we have to understand it's not that and us. It's us together. And there's this beautiful connection. And we may not always understand the answers, or we might not know the no and the why and the how. But those are those times where you just put it in a container and let it be until the timing's right that I'm supposed to know that. But not waste energy and curiosity and wonder like that on things that you're never going to find out until you're now evolved from this physical body back to spirit. It's just not for you to know as a human, and that's okay.
Although
but sometimes easier said than done, right?
I was going to say, as a curious person, I'm always going to be like checking it out, seeking, want to know more, but then also you have to let it go at some point. It's true. Yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah, because you're holding on to what you can't change, right? And if you don't know the answer and you're just, sometimes that's the thing too. Some people are trying so hard to get the communication, to hear the messages, to see the signs, and they're struggling so hard. They're just holding on to seeing the result, right? Like they're just trying. It's forceful. And as we just allow and invite in and allow and ease in to knowing and trusting. And then I, just was saying to a client the other day, like, write a journal, write down all the signs. So the more that you write it down, the more you see it, the more you become aware of it. She was trying to communicate more with her past husband. And when you write it down, then you're like, oh yeah, he talked to me then and he spoke to me there. And, he's messaging me, he's giving me the signs, everything's fine. So yeah.
One of my biggest challenges is journaling in the last couple of years, right? And then when you pick it up and you start to do it and there's that connection, I remember having many aha moments where I would read something in the Bible and then go and journal, and the words that came out of me clearly were not from me, right? And it just tied together or provided a solution to whatever it is I was dealing with at the time. There's so many ways that we connect with God, and it's just really, I say this to my clients as well as my friends and family all the time and myself, pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signs. It happened yesterday for me. There was a client that she's now a client. She booked a pre-screening call at 11 o'clock the night before, 10:56, the night before. She wanted to meet with me at 10 a.m. the next day. I was not going to take it, right? Because I was on my way and my calendars were not in sync, but I took it. She popped on. I was amazed at who she was. Our connection was so cool. She happens to live in the same city as I do, and her office is in the same right around the corner from where I live. And we were talking back and forth. She's like, "Yeah, typically I don't blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Let's just pay attention to the signs and go with it and see how it works." And she was like, "Okay. All right." So we're meeting today at 12 p.m., right? So even we always get signals and signs. It's just whether or not we're paying attention.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to is, are we paying attention?
And asking, right? Like, so we might be thinking we're asking, like I said before, I said, wait, Dad, where are you? Right. And I said, where are you? And he showed me, he is right there. Right? So
Yeah.
some of us don't ask. We think we're asking, but we're not intentionally asking. And I think that also comes along with the communication of humans and humans not asking for what they're wanting. So if you want to practice this, practice it with your human first, and then practice with spirit, because, or one or the other, but make it a conscious effort to ask. Ask for what you want. And then listen, stop talking.
Listen, yes. Do you think that this just popped in? Do you think that we live in such a fear culture, where that we're afraid to ask spirit, we're afraid to listen? I mean, most religions have some component of fear. Our media is full of fear. Our whole culture is fear-based. I'm just now wondering if that plays a part in why people don't tap in more. They're doing it wrong. They, whatever they're going to be afraid of.
I agree with you. And I think also religion has layered fear of speaking to the spirits or speaking to anything other than higher than God, right? And my answer to that is that I first always ask for the highest vibration. So, I'm like you, Larissa, where I don't necessarily believe in that there is one God. There's multiple high vibrations, and I ask for that. So I'm not fearing that the lower vibrations of, low negativity is going to come in, because I keep it so high. So my intention, because, so for example, I'm not on a human level, I'm not talking to people who are negative and naysayers and trying to do business or create conversations with them, because that's exhausting. That's not worthy of my time. So same in the spirit world of like tuning in and knowing that you're fully protected by a high vibration when you invite that in. So I think that the fear might come where what if something negative comes in? What if something bad comes in? Don't let it, right? It's that simple. Don't invite it. I don't want the devil in. It's just not coming in, not inviting it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Choice.
The whole trust journey is a big deal, though, right? It's really it's a lifelong lesson, because each time that you learn a new lived experience, you get another lesson. And if you remember to go back and look at those lessons, it makes your life experiences less, maybe less traumatic, because you've built up a degree in trust.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a practice, right?
Hmm.
And I have to remind myself sometimes hourly, not even daily or weekly, to pay attention, because I get so in my head sometimes. And so it's just like, just allow, just let it go, allow, right? Pay attention to what's going on and stop
Yeah.
forcing it. Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you brought this up, because this week I had a client who has been wanting to communicate with a past loved one. And this person was saying like, I want to have the conversation, I want to have the communication, I want to create this beautiful spiritual relationship. And then when the ancestor came through and came into their bedroom, he was like, wait a minute, I don't know that I want that. I said, but that's where you get to define when, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I want to have a relationship with my friends, Larissa and Cheryl, but we talk on Friday at 10:30, right? We don't talk in the middle of the night. And so again, creating the foundation and the boundaries of when it is. So carving out the time, because we do, Larissa, you brought it up earlier. We have a very fast-paced life. And sometimes we are moving at light speed that we're not getting all the messages. We're not pausing to see the signs. We're not feeling it in our heart. We're not hearing it in our head. So taking a moment, and that's where breath work or meditation or mindfulness comes in, that we slow things down. And now we can't necessarily slow time down, but we can slow our bodies down to be able to see those things and not be so afraid. And that was what the other thing. He was like, I'm kind of afraid. I was like, what are you afraid of? Your spirit ancestor, it won't hurt you. They're not out to hurt you.
You
Well,
asked
I'm
them to
afraid of,
come, they came.
right. Ask, what is it that he wants to know? Like, what is it that you want to hear from him? Or what is it that you would like to know from that individual? Just create a dialogue. If someone comes into your house, you're going to say hi. Right? You're not going to say, get out, you're scaring me.
Not if you've invited them in, but yes.
Right. But at 3:00 in the
Absolutely.
morning, you might say, there's a better time for this.
Yes, I had to practice that for a while.
I was going to say, I remember when you would be like, get out.
Yeah, like, just stop bugging me.
Talking to dead people.
I'm like, you had your chance when you were alive. I know I was totally that way. And I have to say there are moments. My mother still irritates me when she comes, but most other people I'm okay with. I find that most like people, once they've passed, they have like an awareness that comes in the passing or with time, after they've passed. And so you can communicate in a different way. My mother is the exact same person. She still irritates the bejesus out of me. She has not changed at all. So yes, we still have that But I do want to be conscious of time. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No.
No, that was it. That was
Yeah.
we're just going to end on that. My
Yeah,
mother.
I think it's a great conversation. It's a great place for us to all start and really, the simple way I would say if somebody was curious and wanted to figure out where to start, like pausing and ask for a sign. If there is a spirit, if there is a higher source, ask for the specific sign. Notice, or if you do notice signs, you do notice the numbers, or you do to see the dragonflies or the butterflies, or ask what they're here for. What are they here to share with you? And start with something simple like that, and then be aware of it and conscious that that's a message from source, and what is it bringing to you, and don't overthink it.
And that's
Yeah.
a perfect way to wrap that up. That was really good. Really, really
Yes.
good.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I do want to give a shout out to Waha Studios, who said hello and also helped us with the elements when we were struggling. But I didn't say anything earlier, so I apologize. But we did see those comments, so thank you.
And then also ask if you all want to leave a message or have any questions, pop them into the comments on our pages, and we'll get back to you with some answers.
Yeah,
Love that.
absolutely.
Love the communication.